Hey there. Welcome to the Gyro Step, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast, proudly a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and GSPN. I'm Ty Windisch, one of your hosts, here as always, with can't even think of a good enough word, the indescribable Rohan Katti.
Oh, I like it.
Rohan, sir, how's it going?
Doing well, Ty. All things are going well in life. The Milwaukee Bucks have won 2 games in a row for what feels like the first time in forever. It feels like a good time. I know it was last week. Okay, I know it was last week. Last time the Bucks won 2 games in a row, but after 2 straight losses and a little bit of a downturn they've been on, it's nice to have some positive vibes.
It is. This is a self-proclaimed positive pod because the Bucks scraped out 2 wins on a back-to-back, mind you, without Giannis, without Khris, without Serge Ibaka. There's a whole can of worms there, it seems. We're not going to get into that now. More on that, I think, later this week, maybe, on this podcast feed. But nonetheless, without 2 very important players and Serge, the Bucks managed to win back-to-back games against Indiana and against the Raptors, both at home, I believe. And we're here to just give out some flowers, not just for those 2 games, really, I think, for a lot of performances this season. Clearly, the Bucks are very used to playing without Khris this year, unfortunately, and, have missed Giannis for a lot of games, too. What have the Bucks played? 45, I believe, with Bobby Portis and Javon Carter being the 2 guys to play all 45 games. Giannis has missed 10, Jrue has missed 11, Khris has missed 38. The list goes on. Pat Connaughton's only played 29. Joe Ingles, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, only played 13 games. So there's just been a lot of games without full personnel, especially offensively. I think that's mattered, but certainly on the defensive end as well. So let's give out some flowers. I think there is a clear place to start. For once, it's not Giannis. He hasn't played in 4 games. So we love you, Giannis. Not this pod. Jrue Holiday. I mean, we had talked earlier in the year about Brook Lopez making a great all-star case, and I would still love to see Brook Lopez in the all-star game, but I think Jrue Holiday may be coming out of the scene as a better candidate for the all-star game. One, because they love flashy point totals and everything, and Jrue just against the Raptors had a season-high 37 points on 61-50 shooting splits. Really, just like doing
0
everything the
free
Bucks
throws.
need. Yeah, don't even give that. The officiating in that game, the Bucks won anyway. 7 assists for Jrue.
Billy Kennedy put on a show though when he was announcing his.
He always does.
I mean, in arena, everyone was laughing. It was so funny.
I mean, we'll have to talk about the scuffle when we get to Brook, because that was what Brook said about it after. I don't know if you saw what he said. Just really unhinged. Only 7 assists for Jrue, and I say only 7 because it snapped a streak of double-double points assists for 3 straight games before that. So the first 3 games without Giannis, 2 of those losses in Miami, but wouldn't exactly pin that on Jrue. He played well in one. Had trouble making shots in the second one, but a little Miami flu could have been at play. But Jrue follows 35-11 against the Pacers with 37-7 against the Raptors. Really effective shot making in both. I think we will go into the different parts of his game that have been really impressive. And obviously, the defensive constant that he is. He had 2 steals in both of those games and a great block against the Raptors. But he's just stepped up. I mean, plain and simple, Jrue Holiday has said, you need me to be the first option for a week? I can do that. And he did it. I mean, really impressive, especially, the Bucks have not lost more than 4 straight all season. They'd lose both Miami games. They're in a spot where they could match that on a back-to-back, which back-to-backs are never easy, especially without Giannis playing either game. And he just averages 36 and 9 to make sure the Bucks don't lose those games. Rohan, take it away. What have you seen that you've been most impressed with from Jrue Holiday this season?
Well, first, I believe I saw that he is the first Bucks guard with back-to-back 35-plus point games since Michael Redd.
2006, I believe, yeah.
Ridiculous. Shout out Michael Redd, by the way.
2 legends.
Original 22 right there. Sorry, but Khris is better.
You don't have to apologize. I think he knows.
Yeah. But one thing I've really, really enjoyed from Jrue Holiday recently is that he just looks more in control. I know a lot of the times earlier in the season when there was like Giannis was missing some games, and even when Giannis was playing and obviously Khris was out, we felt like Jrue was a little bit out of control on the offensive end. He would be taking some weird shots. He would be just like taking some like early shot clock jumpers, like some weird setback. And maybe he still is. Maybe this shot selection hasn't really changed. But the thing is, now they're going in. Those shots where you're like, oh no, 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 they turn into oh no, 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 yes, because they're actually going in, and if you make the basket, that solves all your problems. But it just feels like he's more poignant about what he's doing. Everything he does seems more controlled. That's the word I keep coming back to, because like I mentioned earlier in the season, it just felt like he was just vibing out there. He was just doing whatever he wanted on the offensive end. It was a little bit sloppy. It wasn't as clean. It wasn't as crisp. It wasn't as precise. But now it just feels like he's in his own offensive rhythm. He knows what shots he's going to be taking and making on a consistent basis. He knows where other guys are going to be out there on the court. It just seems like this team is starting to mesh a little offensively with Jrue Holiday at the helm as the point guard. Because unfortunately, like you mentioned, Khris Middleton, who's like been the de facto point guard a lot of times, has been out. Jrue Holiday has been forced to be like a true traditional point guard for a majority of the time, even though I'd say he's more a natural two guard.
I think you might be proving you're wrong.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
He's
looking like a bona fide star point guard, Ty. And you're right. All-star consideration might not be that far out of the realm of possibility.
This is his fourth best season in terms of assists per game, and he's playing less minutes than any of the first three. I've got to look. This might be number one in per minute assists. No, 13-14 he had more with New Orleans, but this is number two in terms of assists per 36 minutes for Jrue. He's also scoring much more. That was his age 23 season, is the first one. A lot of Bucks highs, though, for Jrue, which I think is very interesting. The 19.4 points he's scoring per game are his highest in a Bucks uniform. As you mentioned, a lot of this is just more load without Khris, but still, it has to be done, and props to him for being able to do it. 7.4 assists is by far his career high, or his Bucks high again, I should say. That's all the way up from 6.1 his first Bucks season in almost the same minutes. So you're talking about a guy who's become much more integrated within the offense and is making plays. 4.9 rebounds is the highest he's had in a Bucks uniform. 1.4 steals is a little lower. 3.1 turnovers is a little higher. These are just things you expect with, some more usage on the offensive end. Couple interesting things, though. 38.8% from three is actually his lowest regular season Bucks total. It hasn't felt like it. It's not far off.
It feels wrong because it's like you don't consider Jrue to be like, oh my god, he's a regular 40% 3-point shooter.
But he has been in Milwaukee, which is in the regular season. In the playoffs, it's like 30 and 31%. Last year, I think is more understandable. Year one, maybe he's had growing pains. I will say the positive for Drew's 3-point shooting is it feels like I think some of the best he shot as a Buck and most consistent. That may be because it's by far not just a Bucks high, a career high in terms of threes attempted per game. He's up to 6.3 threes per game and still knocking down nearly 39%. Hopefully that additional volume will help him continue to be consistent there. And his 2-point percentage is a little bit down. I think, again, that may just be having to do so much more, not having Khris Middleton and the extra space that gives you. But he's just stepped up.
It's just a trend we're seeing from the Bucks nowadays, where just no one can finish at the rim.
Yeah,
which is just kind of weird.
That's aside from Pat's role against the Raptors, where he basically had like a dunk and he missed it, and he got it back and tried to do a hook shot and he missed it. And I was like, Pat, come on, man.
I think I mentioned I was at the game.
Yeah,
and I was trying to get good clips because I was really close. Shout out to my girlfriend for that. I was trying to get this is going to be a cool clip. And I'm just like recording. And then it's just Pat getting offensive rebound after offensive rebound, just to brick 3 layups in a row. And I was like, Pat, what are you doing? You're not Ersan Ilyasova here. Like, what's going on?
Maybe he talked to Ersan before the game, and Urs said, "Hey, keep my legacy alive." Who knows? We might talk about Pat a little bit later. He's played well. I don't know. Just the 3-point shot is rebounding. There's a couple of role players on the team who their 3-point percentage for the season looks really bad. Sometimes that's true. Bobby Portis, there's been a feeling that his shot has improved. You look at the splits and there's like no single month, including January, over 33%. It's like, oh, okay, well.
He's saving it for the playoffs, Todd.
I'll take it. I would honestly take it. But Pat's at 32%, but I think for December or for January, he's like 36%. So it's just a slow start. It's still weighing down that number for Pat. So not too worried there. But I think he's played overall pretty well. Not many exclamation points for him lately, but playing well. I think, do you have anything else on Jrue? I'll say, I just think against Toronto, and I know we just said his 2-point shooting has been down a little bit. The way he got to the rim whenever he wanted, despite like, it's not just like Van Vliet, who's a fine defender in his own right. Worse on ball than off ball, but fine. Kind of tiny. I mean, really not a good matchup for Jrue.
You can't help yourself if you're tiny. Like Fred VanVleet, very, very good defender, but he's still small.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this with Javon, right? Like Javon, sometimes the guy just gets too close to the basket and he just can't do anything if he can't swipe the ball anymore. But Jrue is not. I'm not talking about going through VanVleet. Jrue is going through Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, like big, strong, physical, vaunted defenders. I mean, OG. Supposedly, according to some, should be ahead of Brook Lopez and DPOY. I didn't see that last night. I mean, he had a good defensive game. I think he does well against Giannis. He didn't do well, really, I think, against anyone on the Bucks. I mean, Jrue was going through OG and Pascal like they weren't even there, which I think is not just to denigrate those two, but it's really a credit to Jrue and his strength. And as a point guard, he's able to just get to the rim and make some really nice finishes with both hands. Like, that, to me, I thought was even more impressive because I felt like in these last couple of games, late in the games, he hasn't relied on the three as much. He's hit some clutch threes, but it feels like in big moments, he is going toward more certain shots more, whether it's the mid-range. And he's had so many late-game heroics in the last several weeks here. The Knicks game, too, right? Like, he has just been a clutch, like, star player in these games. And I think a lot of it is being more comfortable finishing at the rim and finishing in the mid-range. Like, he's really scoring at 3 levels lately. And I think that makes him so much harder to guard. And it's just been impressive as hell. I mean, we've seen in prior seasons, he'd have that same strength and ability to get to the rim and then miss. It just feels like maybe he's just on a heater. Maybe, I know he puts in a lot of work on finishing with both hands, but it feels like he's kind of bridged that gap lately of being able to finish when he creates that space around the rim. And it's kind of made him unstoppable offensively.
It really, really has. And I think one thing that we've neglected to mention so far is, oh yeah, by the way, he's still probably the best perimeter defender in the NBA.
There's some, who had the ball? I think it was Siakam. And like he's sizing up Bobby Portis. And Jrue just runs over and takes it and gets a layup. And I was like, dude, he looks so easy doing that. Like, he's doing so much offensively. And he's like, I'm just going to go get 2 more quick. And it was just gone. Like, his hands, I mean, we just talked about offensively. His defensive hands are really ridiculous.
It's truly wild. And it's something that this Bucks team has really been lacking in. I recognize that the Bucks have not been like a huge team in terms of transition opportunities because they're just so slow and old.
Yeah, old.
About this, but we're not gonna talk about that. Shout out Serge Ibaka. But I cracked myself up there. But it's plays like that where you can just get out and get easy, efficient transition buckets when you just have nice like backcourt deflections. Backcourt deflections are so easily leading to transition opportunities. And Jrue Holiday is a guy who can really, really help out with that. Javon Carter's had a few as well, because like you mentioned, he's a great defender in his own right. But Jrue Holiday, just his size, is able to read passing lanes, get in passing lanes before the pass is even made. And like you mentioned, just going and taking the ball. Do you remember Do you remember when Kawhi was on the Spurs and I think Rudy Gay was on the Kings? There was a stretch where it was 2 plays in a row where Kawhi just like Rudy Gay tried to dribble the ball. Kawhi just took the ball and then when it got a dunk. And then the next possession, like after they inbounded the ball, Rudy Gay's bringing the ball up the court. Kawhi just takes the ball again and then gets an and one, I think, this time. That's what Jrue Holiday feels like.
Was both of it with one hand, too?
Yeah.
Like, he just, like, reached down and just, like, had the ball. Those clips... Oh, yeah.
Kawhi. There was a stretch of San Antonio Kawhi where you could not dribble the ball near him. Jrue Holiday's feeling like he's coming into that zone.
I'm going to have a great piece of Bucks trivia for you in a second, but I'm still working on it. I'm going to tee up you to talk about someone else, and this is a hilarious person for me to have you talk about in particular. I don't think there's anywhere else we could go second. Also, the stat is actually about Jrue, so we'll have to circle back when I have it finished.
Okay.
But Drew's playmaking has just been excellent too. I don't want to tee it up too early, but speaking of playmaking, Rohan, you got freaking jingled, mate, because your free agency pod reaction and my takes, and I kind of joined you on this a little too quickly after Joe Ingles, obviously, I'm talking about, had kind of just gotten back healthy. And he's been incredible. Like, he has looked so good. I was joking in the Discord. Shouts to the GSPN Discord, gspn.info, to join that. A lot of discussion there. Also a lot of discussion on our Repod. You can find pod-specific discussion there. We'll be posting about this episode every GSPN pod we post about, so come engage and chat about the episodes at Repod. Join Repod. Oh, is it .com? Oh, I don't have it handy. Join repod.com/GSPN. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it. Yep, I nailed it. I should have believed in myself. But
have some faith in yourself, Ty. I know. You're good at what you do, Ty.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Have some confidence.
Thank
you deserve some confidence.
I needed that gas up. Just like Joe Ingles needed a gas up from us. He didn't get it. Didn't matter. I guess he didn't need it. He's been really good. Like, really good. But I was joking in the Discord, like, the ACL isn't as big of a deal. He just didn't have any athleticism to lose. I want to eat some crow on that, though. He outran Pascal Siakam in transition. Did you see what I'm talking about? I rewound it on the iPad. I'm an iPad watcher now, and I like it because I'll put my phone down, and if I need to rewatch something, I'll just rewatch and then catch up. I realized, like, I don't need to have the fastest speed on the game in the third quarter. It doesn't really matter. So it's been much more enjoyable to watch without distractions.
And then you can fast forward through commercials.
Yeah, exactly. It's been good. But I was like, did that really? And Siakam was in front of him when the rebound starts, and I don't think Siakam was trying, but still. Like, Ingles gets in front of him and then does the, like, soccer player, like, you're not going around me, you're not going around me, you're not going around me, and then slings a bullet to Jrue Holiday for a layup in transition. But Ingles has just been phenomenal lately. Like, everything they've needed offensively, it's been really impressive. So let's eat crow together on Joe Ingles.
I'll go first. I'll go first. Because I was the one who had the reaction, the famous "what," which is just
famous.
Me. It's Ty. You have no idea how many people bring that up to me.
That's amazing.
So many people bring that clip up to me, Ty. Like, IRL people who are, like, not online will be like, "Hey, like, I saw that clip," and like, hey, how's Joe? Every time Joe Ingles does something, I get a flurry of texts about, like, hey, are you watching Joe Ingles do this? So here, let me go on a little Joe Ingles thing. This is a positive thought. First of all, it was a win-win scenario for me. Either Joe Ingles is really good, or I was right. So I couldn't really lose there. I set myself up really well there with that take. 2, there's still some concerns about maybe how is he going to hold up on the defensive end. How is he going to hold up against, like, super athletic guards? How long is he going to be able to keep this up? Is this just, like, found money? Is he going to slow down at some point? We have yet to see, because, like you mentioned, it's only been 13 games. However, in those 13 games, maybe not the first couple, but in these last stretch of games, like you mentioned, he has looked phenomenal. He has looked absolutely phenomenal. He's looked like the guy that we wanted to see. I was concerned that we were not going to be able to see this guy because of his age, because of his injury, because of his time off the court, because of not that he did anything bad off the court, but I'm just saying he's a fantastic person off the court. Support Joe Ingles. But in terms of like he's missed so much time at his age. But there's also like it was not a given that he was going to get back to this, which is why you and I had valid concerns about this. He looks like he's back, Ty. He looks like he's back. He looks like a guy who can command an offense. He looks like another ball handler, the guy that they were missing when, like we've mentioned in the past, even with Khris Middleton on this team, this Bucks team, fully strength last season, needed more ball handling. They've needed more playmaking. They've needed more guys who are capable of making the right decision, capable of trusting him with the ball in his hands. Joe Ingles has looked like that guy. The way he reads an offense is spectacular. I think he might be the best passer on this team, Ty, in terms of reading and reacting to what defenses are giving him. The way he adjusts in real time to what a defense is giving him, you usually see, like, you'll see, like, James Harden does this. And James Harden, in his prime, fantastic, terrific playmaker, one of the best in the league, right? He will set a screen, see what the defense gives him. Then he'll be like, okay, I know what you're going to do now. Come here, set another screen. But that allows the defense to reset. Joe Ingles does not need the rescreen. He reads what the defense is doing in real time and makes adjustments accordingly in his drive, as he's a ball handler in the pick and roll. He will read what the defense is giving you. He will see where the help is going to come from. And I can't remember for the life, I should have written this down and done like an air video on it. But there was a play where Joe Ingles was making a pass to where the help was coming from before the help left. And I was like, what did I just watch? Because it was like, he knew exactly where the help was going to come. I think it was a Brook Lopez roll. I'm going to see if I can find this later.
Yeah.
But I think it was a Brook Lopez roll. And then he knew exactly where the help was going to come from because Brook was about to roll into wide open space. And he made that pass before the defender even took off. And the defender still took off because they had to go help on the Brook Lopez roll. Because you're not going to assume that a guy's going to throw the pass to where you're going to help from. But Joe Ingles is that guy. He has been a terrific playmaker. He's been a good shooter. He's been what this team has needed. He's given them a massive, massive boost off the bench. He has commanded this second unit so well. In fact, sometimes the second unit looks more cohesive offensively. Even when Giannis is on the court, even when Giannis is playing, the second unit looks more cohesive because Joe Ingles is out there commanding the floor. All props to Joe Ingles. He has been fantastic.
And I'll say, too, you can't dispute the vision. And not just the vision, but like he's both got
the pass accuracy, Ty, is ridiculous.
And those are separate
every
things.
Single one is on the money.
Like I think Giannis has improved in both. I still think a lot of the time I think Giannis probably throws better passes. Like I think it's more about what he can, like the way he can throw passes than what he necessarily sees. He'll have some great cross-court stuff, but a lot of the Giannis great passes are like, okay, Giannis drives and the help comes and he like winds around someone and throws a bullet to the corner, right? Or like the Raptors game winner to Grayson where he's falling down and throws a bullet.
That's fair. I think Giannis still might be the best passer on the team. Sorry, Chris. It used to be you, Chris.
Yeah. But I think the vision, it's not like Giannis is like seeing these things. You know, like you watch Jokic, and Jokic is like supercharged, big Ingles, also an elite scorer, just like a ridiculous player, honestly. But Jokic will throw like the, 2 passes ahead pass that you're talking about that Ingles did. Giannis doesn't really do that as much. Giannis is like, I'm going to batter through your team, and if you send the help, I'll throw to the guy you're helping from if I feel like it. Not saying he's not like a willing passer, he's just such a scorer that sometimes he doesn't always feel like throwing the pass, which is fine. But I think Ingles has both. Like Ingles sees the vision and will execute like an insanely crisp pass. Like the one I'm talking about to Jrue in transition was like over the fingertips of a Raptors defender, but it was so on point and such a bullet. It just got right to Jrue and there was no chance of anyone making a play. And he really fires off some excellent passes. Like the thing that I think it seemed like from what came out of camp and Horst's availability, John Horst's availability after they signed him, was like they're really excited about the playmaking, and you can see why. I will say, like Pat, his shooting is also picking up a lot. Unlike Pat, a lot off the dribble. Like, he's a more dynamic shooter than I think I realized. Like, very few, and I mean very few by comparison. I mean, it's sure a healthy percentage total, but it seems like a lot of his shots are off the dribble. Like going around the screen and then pulling up. He's so comfortable doing that. I didn't really realize he did that as much. That opens up even more because we just talked about how dynamic of a passer he is. But if you respect the roll man or the help too much and you don't stick with him, like he doesn't hesitate at all. He'll go around a screen, fire away, and knock down threes. Like he'll get hot and knock down a couple of them. I mean, everything he does offensively right now is really dynamic and additive to this Bucks team. And defensively, I think largely has been fine. I think there's going to be times where he just gets burned because of the, subpar lateral movement because of his age. And I don't know if that's really changed that much. But he's always been a good enough defender. And I think in the past has been a good defender.
Intelligent defender.
Yeah, he's strong and crafty. Drew a couple of 3-point fouls on the Raptors that were hilarious. They got jingled just like we did. The jingled thing is fun. I love it. I'm all in.
Talking so much trash to the Raptors.
Oh
too.
Yeah, which is also incredible.
So much trash. It's just like what was it? The Knicks game. The Knicks game he was getting, where he led the comeback.
Yeah.
That 17-point comeback, largest of the season for the Milwaukee Bucks. A lot of that was in part due to Joe Ingles and his shooting. He got hot right away, and he was just talking to the courtside fans. And it was so fun.
He's great. I think I posted, I'm swooning. Like, I'm actually swooning over Ingles. Like, what he's been doing. It's like, I remember my fascination with Wall this offseason.
Yeah.
Who's now on the trade block for the Clippers. That one hasn't aged super well. Ingles
he's been decent.
Yeah, I know. A weird team. Really weird team over there. But anyway, Ingles is kind of giving me a lot of what I wanted, though. Just like another playmaker who can also score. It probably doesn't score or playmake as much, like volume-wise, as Wall, but the playmaking might be honestly better, especially as Wall, who did rely a lot more on athleticism, kind of figures out how to continue playing well, which I think he's still a good NBA player, but certainly, obviously, not the John Wall we're used to.
You know what my favorite thing about Joe Ingles is, though, that we haven't mentioned? His slow drives.
Yeah.
Those are I don't know how he does that, but it's just he just does it.
Yeah.
Like he gets his space because I don't know. It's like the defense freezes, like they think he's gonna pass, or it's like the Kyle Anderson thing where it's like you think he's gonna move faster than he does, but he doesn't. Like
you're giving him space because you assume he's gonna be a little quicker than he is.
Yeah, he uses his slowness to his advantage. Like no one does it quite as well. No. Slow-mo does it, but like Joe Ingles, he looks like Kyle Anderson out there on those drives.
And he's you can tell he's so used to it because he's never been all that fast, right? And it's like he'll finish through contact really effectively because he probably always has had to some extent. Like there was a play where he finished at the rim and he doesn't get the call, even though he probably should have. And I won't besmirch anyone. This is a positive pod, but I did compare him to a fellow Bucks wing player in the moment and said like that player would have probably thrown up a lob to the Raptors, just like feeling the contact, getting a little flustered, hoping for the whistle. Ingles just plays through and finishes the basket, doesn't get the call, but you still get your 2 points there. It's like he's a hooper. Joe Ingles is a certified hooper, like a really skilled player. I got to circle back to Jrue. I found my stat.
Oh, yeah.
This is a 2-part guessing game for you. So Jrue is at 7.4 assists per game. How many seasons has it been? Or I'll say years to make it easier. How many years has it been since a Milwaukee Buck had 7 assists per game in a season?
Oh, my God. I don't think Bledsoe did it. Am I right in saying that?
You're correct in saying that. There are a lot of Bucks seasons where the leading assist per game guy had less than 6 in recent memory.
It's giving Shelvin Mack leading the Magic in assists at 3.9 energy.
It's not that bad, but it's not that much better.
I saw that the other day, and I just cracked up all over
So good. I can't believe they made don't make that graphic. Come on.
Shout out Shelvin Mack, I guess.
Yeah.
But if it's not Bledsoe, it's not Jrue, it's not Brandon Knight, and Brandon Knight never got up there.
Scored too much, yeah.
Yeah, he's too pure of a hooper.
Yeah, he really will. A lot of game winners that year. People forget. I never will.
He's posting a lot on Instagram nowadays.
Yeah, it looks like he's having a good life, man. I'm happy.
Yeah, I know.
Brandon Knight, come on the pod, by the way.
Do you also see John Henson works for like MSG?
No.
Yeah,
No.
He does like a studio show for MSG and was like hanging out with Bucks players before the game.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. Okay, but was it like it's gonna be someone random like Carlos Delfino or someone?
Carlos Delfino not getting that many assists. Let me see. Was he on this team though? No. I think it predates Carlos Delfino, actually.
What?
Yeah.
Was it? Oh my God.
And by the way, this is not a full season. I was going to do at least 40 games, but I didn't want to seem like I was skewing the data. But I don't know how long you have to go back. I think you have to go back.
Gary Payton?
He is the second most recent player to do it in 28 games.
Oh my God. I don't know.
So 15 years ago, in 07-08, Ramon Sessions in 17 games averaged 7.5 assists per game. 15 years. And again, only 17 games. Gary Payton, I think, played 28 games. He also averaged 7 assists per game. I think before that, I'm going to have to go, I'm guessing it's going to be the 01 era teams, because I know that I'm blanking on his name now. Big Balls he averaged over his Bucks career over 7 assists. Sam Cassell. So I know Sam Cassell had done it. So that may be the last full season Buck to do it. But it's been 15 years since over any amount of games, any Buck has averaged 7 or more assists per game. Really meaningful for Jrue to do that now. And really, again, proving he is a point guard. Shout out to Jrue Holiday.
Is he the second best point guard the Bucks have ever had?
I mean, if you look at their whole careers, yes. If you look at just Bucks, he's making some
just
some
Bucks.
leeway.
Not yet.
But he's not that far off. He's not that far off.
The Bucks have not been a point guard heavy organization.
No.
I mean, they had Oscar, obviously.
Yeah, Oscar is the one who I think Jrue is getting there. He probably has to do a little more. It's not Oscar Oscar was still a great player. But
Drew's a Buck for life, so he's got time.
That is very true. I think the 3 guys on this team will end up being the 3 guys at their positions, no matter where you put Kareem. Giannis is already wherever you put Giannis, but
Kareem's a center, so
yeah, I think they fit next to each other just fine. Anyway, who else should we give flowers to? I picked Ingles. I kind of picked Jrue as well. So your son, or who else is on your mind?
Of course it's my son.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
Grayson Allen. He says F your trade machine. F your trade NBA, your fanspo trade machine. I'm going to go out there and hoop. And Grayson Allen has been hooping recently. Especially he put up tied for his season high in 25 with 25 points against the Raptors. He's had 3 straight double-digit scoring outbursts. In fact, he's had 6 of his last 7 games have had double-digit scoring, which is something we hadn't seen from Grayson in a little bit now. He just looks like he's comfortable. We went through the growing pains this season of, okay, Grayson Allen, you're gonna be an initiator. You're gonna be the guy with the ball in his hands. You're gonna be running an offense, and it led to a lot of people, including yourself, Ty, having an ire of oh my God, what kind of passes is he throwing? He looks uncontrolled on his drives. And it's been okay, well, hey, listen, give him some credit. This is new to him. They're asking him to do more than he's had to do in the past. The Bucks kind of realize that. They're okay, you're doing a little too much.
Yeah.
A little too much here, Grayson Allen. And they're okay, transition back to, if you have any space whatsoever, you need to shoot the ball.
Yep.
And that took a little bit of an adjustment for Grayson. He had to get back into that role. He had to get back into realizing, hey, off the catch, it's tough, because when you're going from, hey, I'm expected to do stuff with the ball in my hands, to, okay, shoot the ball when I have the ball in my hands, it's a little bit of an adjustment. It's a mindset adjustment. It takes time that people weren't giving him enough credit for. Ty. Sorry, I'm going to defend my son here.
All right. It's a positive pod. I won't bring up the tour dates that he was putting up before this most recent. So go ahead, Rohan.
But he was putting up tour dates, Ty, because it's a shift in game that you have to go through mid-season. Like, he's had to go through 2 shifts in the role he's expected to play mid-season, and now he looks like and each time, like the first time, he found his groove after like a stretch of games. He was like, okay, now I'm more controlled. I'm finding my lanes. I know what to do when I'm driving. I'm making better passes. I'm making better reads. He gets there. Then he had to make an adjustment. Then there's going to be a rough stretch, but now he's getting used to it. He's used to this role. He's finding his shot again. And Ty, like, this looks like a guy who can be a really, really, really productive member of the Milwaukee Bucks. He is a guy who commands defense's respect. He also has the skills now, since he had the ball in his hands a lot earlier in the season, to attack off closeouts. He looks explosive off closeouts now. He's making wild finishes at the rim. Last night against the Raptors, he had like a double clutch, like up and under, and I was like, oh my God, Grayson Allen. Like, you look at Giannis's reaction on the bench, he couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He had to like do like a double take, like, oh my God, is that Grayson Allen? He's making those rim finishes, like these crazy rim finishes on the regular now. He looks so much more comfortable as like a tertiary like playmaker rather than a secondary. If he gets knocked down a peg, he looks so much more comfortable with the ball in his hands. And I think that is going to be very, very valuable come playoff time. What we saw against the Celtics last year in the playoffs was a guy who was not comfortable being asked to do a lot in terms of like, okay, defenses are going to let me do what I need to do. I'm not entirely sure what to do here. Over the course of this season, he's built up those skills. He now knows what to do when he has the ball in his hands. He knows how to attack a bending defense. That's what the Bucks need him to do. The opposing defenses are always going to bend to Giannis. They're going to bend to Jrue. They're going to bend to Khris, hopefully, when he comes back. Come on, Khris. Like, please get well soon. I know. He also, shout out to Eric Name. That was a great piece with Khris. It just seems like, and also, this is a positive pod. So let's just say, make sure you keep positive thoughts when you're thinking about players and why they're out due to injury. Like, don't assume the worst out of people. Maybe they do want to play. You should give them the benefit of the doubt, especially when it's a guy who might be like one of the top 5 players to ever play for your franchise, and Khris Middleton. Have some respect in that regard. It's not Serge Ibaka or anything. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep going.
My goodness. I feel pretty good. I think it's not going to be too long before we see Khris. And that's where it seems like it's going. I mean, obviously no inside info, but
I believe so too. But the defenses are going to bend to the big 3. Grayson Allen needs to know what to do when the defenses bend to those 3 and how to take advantage. He looks like he knows how to do that now.
It's just so nice to see positive parenting in our society. And I just love to watch Rohan gush about his son. Grayson's played really well over his last 7 games, averaging 14 a game on 56% 3-point shooting, 2.7 assists per game, which, as you mentioned, I think that's notable because he does have the ball in his hands a lot less, I think, per game. He's being asked to handle it less, but he's still being able to connect and find good passes. But the scoring is the big one, and 3.4 rebounds. Grayson is, against the Raptors late, came up with a couple big rebounds to help seal the deal, and really just has Dante-esque, like, big leaping rebounds, which can be beneficial.
And a very, very sneaky, great offensive tap-out guy on rebounds. He's had a couple of big ones over the last stretch of games where it's just like he just finds his way in there and is able to tap out rebounds.
He gets in the mix.
He does get in the mix, and he's putting his effort in. Like, you can't say he's not trying out there. He's putting his full effort out there. And I will say, I see you, Grayson. I see you putting your effort there.
I also think, again, a player who Ingles has helped out a lot and the additional ball handling he provides. I think, I'm really excited to see eventually like the Khris, Giannis, Jrue, Ingles lineups, because then it's like, that's a lot. Like, how much fun could that be with your 4 playmakers and whoever else out there? I mean, really anyone. That's going to be a lot of fun when it ever happens. I was going to give you, and I know I keep circling back, but I was going to give you what the offense with Ingles and where that ranks for the NBA. Because obviously the Bucks' overall offensive rating is terrible. It's in the dirt this season. The Bucks have the up to 23rd ranked offense in the NBA. I was going to give you Ingles. I realized there's actually a player now after these last few games who has a better on offensive rating than Ingles on the Bucks, which I believe Ingles was first for about a week there. Do you know who it is?
Is it Bobby?
No.
Or is it Brook?
It's Jrue Holiday.
Oh, duh.
Jrue Holiday, the Bucks 115.2 offensive rating with Jrue on. That would rank 5th in the NBA ahead of the Dallas Mavericks. Also, a plus 6.9 net rating in Jrue Holiday's minutes. That would rank 1st in the league ahead of the Celtics. Like, that's how good they've played with Jrue on. Again, with barely any Khris, with the last 2 games without Giannis. Like, he's been that good that they've been dominant in his minutes offensively, and of course a great defensive rating as well. Ingles, despite being second in net offensive rating while he's on, 114.7, which I think would be like 6th in the NBA, so still very good. His net rating is still minus 0.1 because the defensive rating has not been great in those minutes. I think there's some bad early games that are still factoring in there. But cool to see Jrue have that much of an effect offensively. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of potential just for getting healthy and seeing what that does to the offense. So I'm still not all that concerned about the Bucks offensive rating. Let's do some rapid fire here. I think we can bounce around a bit. I think we've got to go Brook next. The headband was excellent. I mean, he said Gary Trent Jr.'s headband was talking to him. That's how that's why he ripped it off.
No, not Gary Trent. What did he say? Steve Trent or whatever?
Yeah,
his name is?
I don't love that. After the last time a Buck intentionally misnamed an opponent, it didn't age well.
It's a positive pod, Ty. It is a positive pod.
All right, but
let's not bring up the skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, fair enough. Outside of that, Brook Lopez.
I also think Brook Lopez has a higher degree of respect garnered for him than the other person, and who I've lost completely all respect for after some allegations.
That's right. Okay, positive pod. Brook Lopez.
Yes, go ahead.
3rd per game on the Milwaukee Bucks in scoring. Didn't expect to hear that before the year, even knowing. I mean, obviously Khris is a big factor there, but 14.6 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists for the big fella. We won't talk about the turnovers. 2.5 blocks, still swatting a ton of shots. And speaking of still, our guy is still knocking down threes. Had some huge momentum shifters against Toronto. 40.1% of his threes knocked down still. 44 games into the season for Brook. And again, a player who his age, the back surgery, everything, has missed 1 game all season. Like, really an impressive all-around season. Also, sneakily almost leading the Bucks in 2-point percentage at 59.5%. Higher than Giannis, higher than Bobby Portis. The only guys higher are George Hill and AJ Green, who are not exactly taking a ton of those shots per game. So Brook has just been effective from everywhere offensively. Still, can be a little slow to react to doubles and take some ill-advised shots from time to time, but his spacing being much more real this season has helped a ton without Khris and without other offensive personnel, and the defense continues to be spectacular. So Brook Lopez, I mean, I did not expect him to be much better this season than last season, given the context and everything, but that's a credit to him and the Bucks conditioning and strength team that he looks fantastic. Like, he still has an all-star case, and it would be great if 3 Bucks go. I won't hold my breath. Maybe if there's a lot of injuries or something like that, but Brook has been phenomenal this season.
I still think there's too many great guards in the East for Jrue to really make it, so I'm still on the Brook Lopez train for the Bucks second off. We can do a full pod on this closer to when we find out, but like, the Hawks guys shouldn't go. I mean, there's a bunch of teams that are just so underwhelming that we'll see. It's up to the coaches, which is good for Bucks. I mean, you've got Harden, I think Jaylen Brown's considered a guard. You've got Brunson, Mitchell, Garland, Halliburton. Like, that's already 6. I would take Jrue over a couple of those guys. Fair. I'd take Jrue over Garland. I'd probably take Jrue over Brunson. Really, I don't. Okay, here's the thing. Brunson's been putting up gaudy numbers. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll do a full pod.
But,
I'll just say again, and I know you know this, but just for listeners to understand where I'm coming from, the coaches decide this. And I think that is a big deal for Jrue and even Brook, who are like winning players more than they are flashy players. That's their best avenue in. Adam Silver will not help the Bucks. We know this.
No.
So injury replacements, we probably have no shot.
I think Adam Silver usually goes on like the next guy, though.
Yeah. Actually, he did put Khris in, bizarrely, didn't he? Wasn't that Silver? Or was that the coaches? Now I don't remember.
It was the coaches.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, that makes sense.
They usually go the next guy up. Like, in terms of like coach voting, Silver always does the next guy, just to be fair.
If 2 Knicks and 1 Buck go, cancel the game.
I don't think 2 Knicks are going. I think it's just Brunson.
I'm hearing a lot about Randall.
Yeah, because he plays for the Knicks.
Yeah. Anyway, positives.
Brook Lopez, amazing, fantastic, deserves All-Star consideration, deserves to be an All-Star. Who's another guy we can touch on really quickly?
I want to talk about G. Hill.
G. Hill, yes. Let's talk about George Hill.
Again, a player who the shooting is picking up and the ball handling has been pretty indispensable, especially the games without Ingles. He has an outsized importance in that role, but even when Ingles plays, he's been good connective tissue. I know the story after the Pacers game was like Hill and Matthews, dusted off. Is the Bucks is Bud saving these 2 guys for the playoffs? And Wes, I'm not sure. I think Hill has
looked good. Wes looked good.
He looked good.
George Hill looks like
6 minutes.
Yeah.
And then didn't play again against the Raptors. I don't know if he's being saved. Maybe. I don't know about that. But I think Hill is sort of being saved and also is just like dealt with injuries and who else is available at playmaker positions, I think matters a lot for his minutes. I think just generally, like Bud has had a tough time because some guys just can't play. And it seems like outside of Wara, whoever doesn't play, it pisses people off. I mean, he has a rotation. There's a lot of good players on the roster, as Bud said too. But Hill has had a positive impact. He's been good defensively. He had some great switches and forced a steal or a turnover for Indiana late in that game. I think he had 9 points and 6 assists in that game. Like that was, again, Ingles right now is not playing both ends of most back-to-backs, and Hill has stepped up in those situations and just generally looks like a good, helpful NBA player. Again, with Pat and Ingles, the 3-point percentage looks really bad. I think, again, he started quite slow and has hit more since then. I mean, still not going to be a reliable, scorching scorer, but has come in and contributed and played really well and just been very sound, especially as the AJ Green positive pod. Never mind.
Positive pod for sure, but it's very nice to see. He's a guy who we expected to take a little bit of the backseat now that Javon Carter has shown that he is very, very capable of being the backup point guard for this team. But it's still nice to have George Hill. I've always called him, during his Bucks tenure, a security blanket, like a weighted blanket for this Milwaukee Bucks team. He's more. It's like he's still a weighted blanket, but your anxiety is getting better, sort of thing. Where it's like you don't need it as often, but when it's there, it's still super nice.
Is that a look into Rohan Katti?
I don't have a weighted blanket though.
Oh,
but
shit. I didn't like it. I got my fiance a weighted blanket, and I tried it. And I was just like, it's just a heavy blanket. I think I have a simple mind. I was like, it's just a heavy blanket. I don't need this.
Like I've used a weighted blanket before, and it's like when you're kind of stressed out, it does feel really nice.
I don't know if I lay down enough.
Maybe like obviously, hopefully it doesn't happen. But if you're ever feeling like you're not in a great mood, then try it.
Okay. Well, I don't know where it is, but I'll try to dig it up. And I don't think she's loved it either.
But George Hill, George Hill is he's been really good. He's been really good in the role that he's been having, which is it's more reduced than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But it's still a role, and he's still really, really good in that role. And it's so nice to see. Like this team is really starting to come together. Like you're starting to see where guys fit, where guys like, okay, we put this guy in this spot with this many minutes with these guys, these type of players next to him. It makes sense. And it's all starting to come together, Ty.
Yeah. Bobby Portis, I think just quickly, the 3-point shot, as I mentioned, still not falling. But He just does a lot of work in the paint for a team that needs that. The Bucks, if Serge is just gone, we don't exactly know what's happening, but I think they still could use a guy who can play drop coverage a little better. That's not Bobby's forte at all. There's been some tough defensive moments, but moving on, scoring a lot, still averaging a double-double, just barely 14 and 10.0 rebounds, but we'll take it. 2.6 offensive boards per game, which leads the Bucks. Giannis leads in overall rebounding. 56% from two. Huge energy, big impact plays. Bobby has been indispensable. There are people who include him in fake trades. I think unless there's like a legitimate star coming back, he's not going anywhere.
Unless you're getting Paul George, no.
That'd be fun. Siakam, there's guys where you could talk me into it. Wow, Rohan's not sure about Siakam for Bobby Portis. That's a good headline. But yeah, I think overall has been indispensable. And you can see, even though the fit isn't perfect, especially with the shooting right now, and we still hope that maybe, Brook can get him in with the Noah or something and we can fix that. But Bobby has just been great and continues to step up when they need him most of the time.
For sure. He's always going to be fighting down low. He's always going to be, he does the work like you mentioned. It's just, I don't know, sure, there's a bit of a defensive issue, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Year one, Bobby Portis, it's not that. He's gotten better. I don't think it's as good as last season.
The defense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Might be a little.
I think it's regressed a little bit, but I think it also has to do with the personnel around him.
And also he was more consistently asked to play the 5 last year because of the Brook injury, and this year I think maybe that security, that weighted blanket, that's a lot of weight. Sorry, no offense, Brook Lopez, big guy. I think maybe that when you don't have it on now this year, it's oh God, I'm not used to this. Who knows? But yeah, I would agree. I want to challenge you as we end this pod.
Ooh.
Positive pod. Jordan, talk about Jordan. Oh my, I gave it away. Rohan, talk about Jordan Nwora.
Jordan Nwora is really increasing his trade value.
We'll do a full trade pod soon. That didn't seem to make sense in the positive pod, but knocking down some threes, 41%, best since his rookie year.
Yeah, that's mean. That's rude of me. It's true. It's true, but it's also hey, if you're increasing your trade value, it means you're playing well.
Yeah, don't look at the 2-point percentage. Just knocking down threes. He's
making defensive plays as well.
He's got good hands.
He's getting back.
He's got good hands.
And it looks like he's actively engaged on the defensive end. There's still some lapses. He's still going for some. He's still trying to get some errant steals, which it's you had no chance of getting.
Huge 2K energy on a lot. It's even the 2K animation where you're you don't need to lunge your whole body to go for a steal. That is what we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. It's you still have some of those, but it's drastically improved over what we've seen. His defensive energy looks great. His offense has never really been the issue aside from certain shot selection. But it's mostly been being engaged on the defensive end, not being a complete and total traffic cone on the defensive end. And he looks like he's really trying. He's also offensively, he's moving well. Yeah. He's finding people well. He's actually passing the ball, moving the ball.
He's an NBA player, I think, which is
he's an
it
NBA
sounds
player for sure.
Demeaning, but 45th overall pick was not that. I think before earlier this season, just didn't fit really well in the offense. He's been a productive NBA guy, and I still think has shown enough tools that a team is probably going to want to can we give him a bigger role and see what happens? And maybe he'll be a good, useful offensive role player for a long time. Who knows? I don't think he's going to get the reps to do that with the Bucks, but he's looked good in the he's scored when they've needed him to score, which does mean something in the league.
And also, it's he's a little bit foul prone too. But it's a couple of them, against the Raptors, it's he's trying to take a charge, he's trying to get in good defensive positioning.
A couple of good possessions against Siakam.
Exactly. There was one possession where it's Pascal tried to size him up, take him, and Jordan, he was moving his feet well. He was staying in front of him. Pascal had to pass out of it. Given later in the possession, Pascal drew a foul on Jordan Nwora. Yeah. But it was that isolation. It's Jordan Nwora, you held your own there. Congratulations, good job. That sounded really sarcastic.
Nwora?
I didn't mean that to be sarcastic.
6'8" wing player who can shoot. I think maybe checks a lot of boxes for Toronto. We'll see what happens there. But if they move Gary Trent, could you not see them doing the DJ Wilson, trying to do the reclamation project on War?
I mean, I could see it. Like, Masai is like, he sees someone where he's like, I have a second round pick I can develop into something. He's like, why are they not on my team already?
Yeah. I mean, hey.
Credit to Masai. It usually works out for him. Not
as much lately, but yeah, in the past, for sure. Malachi Flynn caught a DMP, I think. No, let's move on.
Hey, we saw Joe Wieskamp out there. Not on the court, but like he was out there. I think I don't know if you saw. I tweeted a picture of him and Mamu catching up.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that actually. I have to go look at that.
It's a cool herd reunion going on there.
Yeah. I don't think he's played at all with the Raptors. He played one game with the 905 and played well, and they did give him a second 10-day before the game. So whatever they're seeing that they like, even though he hasn't really played for Toronto itself much at this point.
Yeah, but it was nice. It was nice to see him out there, Herd alum.
I mean, maybe there'd be some minutes if the Raptors weren't. What did Van Vliet play, like 80-some minutes over a back-to-back?
Bro, Nick Nurse needs to be arrested.
Like, they're fouling down 6 with 3 seconds left. Why?
Like, have some respect.
He's just running those guys into the dirt. I mean, it's like, it's not good.
And you can see why there's like a little bit of tension there. And I
wanted to ask you this actually. And I know we have got to wrap pretty soon here, but did it seem to you like the Raptors bark at each other a lot? Like, I was watching the game on TV, and you would see, like, a Buck would get to the rim and make the shot, and I would just see, like, OG or Scotty or other guys just, like seemed like just yelling. And I was like, maybe that's just coverage thing. I don't know, but look kind of aggressive.
The body language was not great.
Like, I'm watching this, and I've seen earlier in the year, people are like, it's national media is blowing smoke where there is none. The Raptors are fine. Chemistry issues. I'm like, they're yelling at each other on the court in front of you. What are you talking about? Maybe, I don't know, maybe everyone's kind of accepted it since earlier in the year or late last year or whatever. But I was like, yeah, I could buy into there being some chemistry issues. They are actively yelling at each other when they give up baskets. That's not ideal.
Yeah, it's very less than ideal, but I think that's where we can wrap this up here. Say thank you for listening to this episode of the Gyro Step here on GSPN and Blue Wire Podcast. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube. Make sure to check us out on Repod, like Ty mentioned up top. Join repod.com/GSPN. Am I missing any plugs? GSPN.info for all things.
Whatever you forgot to say. YouTube watchers, thank you. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe.
Yes. 5-star rating on your podcast platform of choice. Pod Random, and we will talk to you next time.